from Wilkinson Cameras, and today I have the brand new OM System OM-3 along with an M.Zuiko Digital ED 17mm and 25mm f1.8 Mark II prime lenses. The OM-3 is styled on the original OM-3 film camera, and these two prime lenses make a perfect companion. This will sit within OM System's camera lineup, offering a different perspective from the OM-5 or OM-1 series. OM System have very firmly aligned themselves with the outdoor market, but the OM-3 is going in a very different direction. So if you're looking for a retro-styled camera with loads of creative controls for shooting street, lifestyle, architecture, documentary, even portraits and bits of landscape, then this might be the camera for you. It's super compact and lightweight, so it will be great in these environments where you need a discreet setup, but still packs a punch in image quality and features. It looks like OM System are hoping to take a chunk out of the Fujifilm market after their success with similar cameras. The OM-3 has a 20.4 megapixel micro four thirds stacked sensor featuring up to 7.5 stops of in-body image stabilization, AI subject detection, up to 120 frames per second sequential shooting, a new creative dial for more creativity, OM Cinema 1 and 2 color profiles for video, and so many more features. So the OM-3 definitely packs a punch. Kaine and I took it to Manchester to put it to the test and to see if it really does perform well for the market OM System are going for. We tested image quality and video, some of the computational photography modes, the creative dial at the front, and so much more. So stick around to see the results. I also took it to the Lake District at the weekend, but the visibility was shocking, so I only have a few nature examples, I'm afraid. OM System really want you to have creative input pre-production, not post. There are so many options to play around with, and you can really experiment to find your signature style or to work with the environment around you. At first, I was a bit dubious about this because there's a fine line between out-of-date old school Instagram filters and your retro vintage style classy profile looks. But I immediately loved the results I was capturing when I was testing this in the city. I even went as far to add the white frame effect onto some of my images, and if I do say so myself, they look pretty cool. It's definitely a thread situation. A creative dial on the front of the camera has 4 settings: mono, color, art, and CRT. Specifically, we have 4 color profiles, 4 monochrome profiles, color creator, and lastly art filters. Now, some of you may recognize this from the very popular Olympus Pen F. Of course, the OM-3 is styled on, well, an OM-3. So while some of these creative filters are the same, the camera design is very different. The retro styling, traditional buttons and dials, the central pentaprism designed electronic viewfinder really do play homage to the original film camera. As well as the creative dial on the front, you have a computational photography button on the back that allows you to flick through different CP modes. But what do I mean when I say computational photography? Well, within this mode, you can access features like high resolution sharp, live neutral density or ND, and graduated neutral density or GND, focus stacking and HDR directly in camera, eliminating any additional software. I mainly use the Live ND and GND and thoroughly enjoyed this. The fact OM System Cameras has built-in NDs is just so convenient. I'd like to see this in other cameras and even in video. Now that would be a game changer. Although the OM-3 only goes up to ND64 opposed to ND128 on the OM-1 Mark II, but for the style of photography you'll be using this camera for, ND64 is perfectly fine. This basically means that I can use slow shutter speed to get motion blur without overexposing my image or having to add an additional physical filter. And because the OM-3 has up to 7.5 stops of in-body image stabilization, I can do this whilst keeping the rest of my image super sharp. For high-res shot, you have 14-bit RAW, which gives massively improved color tones, especially useful if you're shooting landscapes with lots of similar colors. This, combined with high-res mode, will give you the ultimate detail. You can get 50 megapixel handheld or 80 megapixels with a tripod. These are stitched in camera as well, and that's a massive plus point. Now we'll quickly skim over the sensor and processor because this is the same as that found in the OM-1 Mark II, so we already know it's going to perform very well. The OM-3 has a 20.4 megapixel micro four thirds stacked BSI live MOS sensor and a TruePic X dual quad core processor. Now in English, this means great autofocus, impressive image quality, a reasonable buffer, and high speed sequential shooting. The AF is very responsive and responds quickly to movement. The OM-3 has the same AI subject detection as the OM-1 Mark II, so humans, cars, planes, trains, birds and animals. There are 1053 AF points edge to edge with cross-type detection AF, so whatever or whoever you are shooting on the OM-3, you can be confident that you'll get the shot. This will also be great for street photographers. There's up to 120 frames per second sequential shooting and up to 50 frames per second with continuous AF, so very fast burst rates. I didn't realise I was shooting 120 frames per second and racked up thousands of shots of these pigeons very quickly, so please be mindful of this. For in-body image stabilization, there are 7.5 stops of IBIS versus 8 stops on the OM-1 Mark II and 6.5 without a sync IS lens. This means you can confidently shoot handheld, even in low light, and can shoot very stable video. Stabilization for video was also very smooth and clean, but more on that in a minute. The OM-3 feels very nice in the hands. It's compact, lightweight, and discreet. So pairing it with the 12 to 45mm kit lens or the two new lenses, the whole kit is nice and small whilst offering great quality optics and versatility. We have a stills movie S&Q dial on the top left, which is very handy. I also enjoyed that my video settings didn't cross over into the stills, which can be a pain in other branded cameras. This allows seamless switching from stills to video and back, really essential for the fast-paced nature of city shooting. On this side of the camera, you have a display button and an on-off switch. I don't personally switch between my displays, so I ended up customizing this to something else. There are plenty of options for customization. On the right of the camera, you have a classic mode dial with a lock button, which is a nice touch. You also have customizable dials, a shutter button, a function button, and a record button. The dials have a nailed grip to them, which made it easier to adjust my settings. The placement of the function and record button doesn't feel very user-friendly. For someone who has long nails, this was just a nightmare. But again, you can customize these and change it all about. I also found it tricky to use these buttons when I had the strap attached on the back, so please bear that in mind. On the back, you have your classic buttons and a four-way controller, an AF on button next to the thumb grip, which for me is too far over for the balance of the camera. Lastly, there's a CP button with a function lever. The CP button switches from computational photography and back to normal, and the lever around it has two modes to choose from. So mode 1 changes the dial function and mode 2 switches AF modes. There are lots of customizable buttons and dials, so I would spend a good while customizing this to how you shoot to get the most out of this camera. I think in an ideal world, I'd like this camera to be a little bit simpler and less button and dial heavy, but taking the time to customize these does make this camera a great camera to use and really allows you to make the most of the powerful features that it has. The camera, body only, weighs 413 grams, so it is very light. With either of the new primes, it would weigh under 600 grams, so it's not bad at all. Initially, the body felt quite wide compared to other models of this specification, but the more I used it, the more I got used to it. I'd like an external grip for this camera to give you more support. I found myself using the creative dial on the front as a resting point for my pinky finger, which became quite uncomfortable throughout the day. I feel like the thumb grip is in the wrong place or should be a bit bigger. Kaine and others at the office agreed with this as well, so we're hoping an additional grip becomes available. What are your thoughts? And let me know in the comments. There's an eye-level 2.36 million OLED electronic viewfinder at the center of the camera and a high-resolution 3-inch vari-angle monitor, great for portraits and low angles. It takes the same BLX1 battery as the OM-1 Mark II, which surprised me when I got it out of the box. The battery lasted most of the day in Manchester, especially when I was putting the OM-3 through its paces, so battery life is very good. For creators on the go, it features a USB-C charging port and supports charging in camera with a power delivery plug or power bank. Something I always credit OM System for is their IP ratings. They're one, if not the only camera company to assign IP values, which tell you how weatherproof and dustproof it really is. The OM-3 has IP53 certified weather sealing, making it incredibly reliable in challenging weather conditions. This was a godsend when I was in the Lake District at the weekend because it was wet, it was miserable and windy, and I didn't need to worry too much about water damage in the camera. For video, there's 4K 60p in 10-bit H.265 and 240 frames per second slow motion in full HD. You can now film in OM System's new video color profiles, OM Cinema 1 and 2, which is ideal for someone who likes to export straight out of camera for, I don't know, content creators or anyone that wants quick delivery onto social media or their mobile phones. There's also OM Log 400, which is what most of the sample footage in this video is filmed with. This gives you the widest possible dynamic range between your highlights and shadows, but you will have to color grade this in post-production, otherwise it will be very flat. There are two IBIS modes, MIS1, which uses both sensor shift and digital stabilization and also adds a crop onto your video footage, and MIS2, which uses sensor shift. I use MIS2 for most of the footage that you'll see in this video, and I found it to be very stable. So whilst this may seem like a stills first camera, this is a very capable camera for video and it is easy to switch from stills to video for a hybrid creator like me. It will also make a nice vlogging camera thanks to the fully articulated monitor, 3.5mm mic and separate headphone input, and that very impressive stabilization. As I mentioned at the start of the video, OM System also released a 17mm and 25mm f1.8 Mark II prime lenses, which have been perfectly paired with the OM-3 in Manchester. These standard focal lengths allowed Kaine and me to quickly capture landscape, cityscape, street, and so much more. With the large f1.8 aperture, I captured some stunning bokeh and depth of field, and both lenses are equipped with fast and quiet AF as seen in these examples. Both are also very sharp and have given me some very impressive results. These are popular focal lengths in the OM System lineup, but the Mark II versions are now weather sealed to complement the weather sealed cameras. For pricing, the OM-3 launches at $1,699 in the UK for the body only and $1,999 with the M.Zuiko 12-45mm kit lens. The M.Zuiko Digital ED 17mm f1.8 Mark II lens is launching at $479 and the 25mm is launching at $399. So what do you think? Is the OM-3 the camera for you? Will you consider this instead of the OM-5 or the OM-1 Mark II? Or are you comparing this to models from competitor brands like Fujifilm? Please let us know in the comments below. This camera really surprised me. I thought that maybe it needed to be simpler, more like the Fujifilm X100VI with some ready-made film simulations, but I've loved creating my own and found a whole new creative process to my photography. I absolutely love the results that I've got from this camera, and hopefully you've loved seeing all of the samples in this video as well. It's worth mentioning that all the sample stills are straight out of camera JPEGs. I really didn't want to change a thing about them. I loved them as they were, and that's thanks to how much creative control I had in camera, and I think this will appeal to a lot of people. So that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Remember, if you're in the UK, to head to wilkinson.co.uk where you can buy any OM System cameras and lenses, get help and advice, or visit our stores in the northwest of England. Thanks for watching.